I'm ready? Okay, my name is Manuel and today my topic will be stem cells. First of all, I'd like to start off with, I'm pretty sure you guys know what stem cells are and what they do, but I'd like to tell you what they are anyways. Essentially what stem cells are is they're cells in our bodies that duplicate and can turn into any other cells in our body. So essentially what we can do with these is repair any tissue in our body that has been damaged or diseased. So that is the basis of stem cell research and what we try to do with it. Okay, so with that, I'd like to state my main claim for today, being that stem cells are the future of modern science. To support that, I'm going to use the secondary claims. First, that stem cells have the potential to cure any degenerative disease. And second, that no other option in modern science has as much potential as stem cells do. First, to explain my first secondary claim, why is it important that stem cells can cure any degenerative disease? Degenerative diseases are, are the main cause of death in the United States. Prime example, according to the Center of Disease Control and Prevention, heart disease is the #1 cause of death in the United States. They estimate that in 2009, 785,000 new coronary attacks were reported. They also estimate that every 25 seconds an American will have a coronary event, and that every minute one person will die from a coronary event. Now imagine us being able to cure all those hearts, and almost indefinitely. That's what stem cells would potentially do. The second reason why it's pretty important that stem cells can cure degenerative disease is that we see that old age, if we can classify old age as a degenerative disease. This idea comes from a book I read. It's called Becoming Immortal by Mr. Stanley Shostak. And in this book, he talks about using stem cells to become immortal, to essentially cure old age. He maintains in the book that the possibility of immortality rests on two premises. One, anyone able to perpetually regenerate, reinvigorate, and replace age or diseased parts of their body could live in the same body from birth to eternity with their persona intact. And two, a clone of one's own cell could serve as a source of embryonic stem cells able to support cellular renewal. I know that stem cells are only a part of this cure for old age that he has in the book, but it is an essential part. And throughout the book, he talks about how we can use stem cells to cure this ailment that we will all have. And that's why it's important that they can cure degenerative diseases. For my second secondary claim, no other option in modern medicine has as much potential as stem cells do. We can first look at the options that we do have for the cures of ailments that we have now. First of all, our best cure is prevention, and it is our best cure because if we don't get sick, then there's nothing to cure. But what happens when we don't prevent? Then we have to cure with something else. First of all, let me say that we can't prevent it as well as we think we can. #1 thing that we do to prevent ailments and diseases is vaccines. And vaccines aren't as effective or safe as we think they are. In an article called "Are Vaccines Really Safe and Effective?" by Mr. Jog Doubleday, the founder of Natural Women and Natural Man Inc. This is a non-profit organization that looks for better cures for diseases. He says, every school child knows that the polio vaccine eradicated polio in the Western Hemisphere, but in fact there is no evidence to support this claim. It goes on to say that between 1973 and 1983, 87% of all cases of polio, excluding imported cases, were caused by the vaccine. This is a little, it kind of gives you a look at how vaccines are actually could be the cause of most of our diseases instead of preventing them. And thirdly, if we do get sick, we need to cure them. And what we use mostly for therapy and for treatment is drugs. And drugs can have very bad adverse effects on our bodies. In a clinical review published by the British Medical Journal, done by Daniel Borgelet and Stephen Doran, they list off the adverse effects that drugs can have, which include and are not limited to drug overdose, drug side effect, drug interaction, how drugs affect each other while used together, drug intolerance, drug idosoprism. It's a genetically determined abnormal reaction related to a metabolic or enzyme deficiency and drug allergy. Listing all these off, and there are more, you can see that drugs are not a very good way to cure diseases. Going back, stem cells, I'd like to, with all this information, I'd like to say that stem cells are the future of modern medicine because they have the potential to cure degenerative diseases and because modern medicine does not have better options than stem cells. Thank you.
Well, I'm not sure that there's a lot of controversy that they have the potential to do that, although you need to demonstrate, I think, the potential issue a little bit more than you did. You did an okay job trying to show why the alternatives are inadequate. I'm not sure that you gave us an exhaustive list of the alternatives. Prevention, vaccines, and drugs, I think, are probably a good starting point. But on each of those points, although I think you have some interesting evidence and a couple of good challenges to make, I'm not sure that they're complete. I think, for example, on the prevention argument, that your best point is that even if people do the most they can at prevention, we have nothing except stem cells that are going to prevent aging. Right? Everybody is going to get older regardless. Now, will they develop chronic heart disease? Will they have cancers? Those kinds of things. Anything that's associated with aging is kind of inevitable unless the stem cells can replace it. So I think that's the sort of reasoning you need on that point. On the vaccine argument, I think you get sidetracked on this point. In fact, this might be its own claim of fact category. You might want to change the focus of the argument to something about this issue, because it really seems to suggest that vaccines are a source of a problem, and I think there's a lot more controversy on that than there is in a lot of the rest of the speech. You did a good job citing the secondary points as you went through it, although it did seem to get a little bit complex because you had 2 or 3 points on your opening section and then 3 or 4 points on the second section. But mostly, I think we can follow. It could be a little bit clearer. I know you said you were a little bit nervous, but you only had the one time that there was any problem. You caught your breath and you seemed to be speaking pretty effectively to the audience, so I wouldn't worry about those things. You're doing fine. All right, thank you.